this. Good morning. Really glad to be here and talk about our favorite subject, mom. Because mom really does run the world, and I know that you guys all know that, so we're not going to talk about that a lot because you already know it or you wouldn't be here. I'm really privileged to have this position at the Coca-Cola company, very proud of the company, to be able to talk about a lot of the good that the company does in the world. We were 125 years old last May, founded in Atlanta, Georgia by a pharmacist. The main product, and we were a one-product company until about the 60s, which is pretty remarkable, really, is all natural flavors and no added preservatives, and that's completely unchanged. So it's kind of interesting that now that would be such an important attribute for a product to have, and we've had it really since 1886. At that time, we sold about 9 servings a day at Jacob's Pharmacy for about a nickel a piece. But the times have changed, and we're now the largest non-alcoholic beverage company in the world. We operate in over 206 countries, which is more than the UN, and we do about 1.7 billion servings a day around the world of product, and we're one of the world's most recognized brands. And with that comes a lot of responsibility, but also it's a wonderful thing for our company because we have a lot of trust, and that trust really comes from Mom, who is actually the purchaser of the bulk of our products. Even the products meant for the men, the women purchase. So we're always talking to Mom, and we're very concerned about her. You know, she really has a lot of multiple views of the world, and I think the old school was to think about Mom, and you do your little demographics and stuff that every typical marketer does. But the reality of the situation is today's mom, it doesn't fit those demographics because she's not one thing all day long, but rather different all day long. So sometimes she's being a mom, and sometimes she's at work being a professional. And then she's a shopper, so she's at the store sometimes. Sometimes she is with her own family and with her own friends, and she's a leader in that community. And then she's a voter as well and concerned about the issues that are present in today's society. And she really cares a lot about the well-being of her family, her community, and the world, and in particular things that touch her directly. So her community. So while she cares about what we might be doing in Africa or whatever, which is some pretty cool stuff, what she cares about the most is actually what's happening in her community and how we're making a difference in her life with her friends. And so we've really had to learn to respond to that. And we're using digital to do that, and I'm going to talk today through a couple of examples of how we're doing that in the active, healthy lifestyle space and also in the environmental space with a little thing you might have seen around the holidays called Arctic Home that we did with the World Wildlife Fund. So that's going to be kind of what we're going to talk about. And these programs are very digital, and so that's why I've selected those to talk about today. We know that she lives in both physical and virtual communities. You heard that talked about. And so we have to address both of those communities. So if she's saying to us, I care about what touches me, she's not just talking about her local school or her local subdivision or her local grocery. What she's really talking about is everything that touches her, including her digital life, which is very important to her as well. So we really recognize that when we put programs together, they have to fit in both her physical world and her virtual world seamlessly. And then they have to carry the right message for the moment she's in a certain headset. So if she's being a professional, she might be willing to receive more information, for example, than when she's in the grocery store when she's really caring about what she's going to pick and how that's on her list, if that makes sense to you guys. When she's thinking about her child, she's thinking about a different set of criteria than she's thinking about sometimes when she's thinking about herself or her husband or her friends. And so we have to be cognizant of that and be prepared to address all that as we go through our programs. And I just wanted to say that this whole area of sustainability is really important to Mom. And for us, so the most common question I get when I go out and do these talks, the most common question is, why would Coke do all this stuff? Because we've been doing stuff in communities almost since the company was founded, almost 125 years. You probably haven't heard a lot about it because we had a chairman for a long time who believed that you should just do that work and that people will know it's Coke because that's the kind of work it is. But we really discovered a few years ago that that didn't work. And so we had to sort of change and begin to talk about some of the stuff we're doing. So while we've been doing stuff for a long time, we're relatively new to talking about it. And we've discovered that the digital space is a really remarkable place to be talking about it. But people say to me, Celeste, why do you guys do this work? You know, you're a for-profit company. Why would you be investing in these communities like this? And the answer to that is pretty simple. First of all, it's in our mission statement. We are in the world to make it a better place. And if you look up our mission statement, it'll talk about refreshing the world. It'll talk about bringing moments of happiness to the world. And lastly, it ends with making a difference. And we believe that that's really important, that we make a difference in the world. And this is a way we can do it. And we can help Mom do it furthermore, because that's really what she wants to do in the end, is make a difference. So very compatible. This is our Live Positively platform, which is a platform we put in place to just talk about what we're doing in the sustainability area. I'm going to talk about some of the marketplace things when we talk about that today. Community, what we do in our own workplaces, because we never do anything out in the community that we haven't started on our own premises first with our own people. And then the environment, which we care quite a lot about and have commitments. We have commitments in all of these areas to reach by 2020 with a plan for 2020. One of the things that I realized as I was hearing the introductions today and thinking a little bit about this, that I wanted to mention before I go into the digital things, which I didn't really highlight since it's not digital, but I think might be of importance to you guys, is a program that we just introduced called 5x20. It's a community program, and it is our commitment to help empower 5 million women entrepreneurs around the world by 2020. And why is that important? Well, that's important because if you can go to places and empower that maybe aren't as settled and they don't have a lot of commerce, and you can empower women. They create peace, for one thing, from war. And by empowering one woman, she can help empower a whole community of women when you set her up in business. And there are women hungry to be involved in business around the world. So I'm really proud of that commitment, and we're well on our way to doing that. So I just did want to mention that because it's not digital, it's very real and live, and it's giving capital and training and putting them into our own distribution system and things, and then having them employ other women. But I think it was important to just mention it given the topic today. And we're really, thank you, I appreciate that because I think that's one of the things that we really are very proud of. We do this not alone. One of the things that we really realized is that we have to have partners. We can't do this alone. We have to do it with others. So we have engaged in some authentic partnerships, some of them on the health and well-being side, as you'll see, like the American Academy of Family Physicians, the pediatricians, sports medicine, dietitians, and some of them on the active lifestyle side and the environmental side, like Rails to Trails, national parks, Recycle Bank, and the World Wildlife Fund, things like that that allow us to do our programs. And they bring the expertise, we bring the marketing for most parts. So we can't do it alone. None of us can do it alone. We have to get together to be able to make a real difference in the world. And we have a lot of support for healthy, active living. So one of the things that I get asked a lot is about the obesity question, so you guys can ask me that question later. We do have products with calories. We also have a lot of products without calories, 150 of them, as you heard. In fact, we have a no-calorie one for almost every caloried one we have. But we believe also in this idea of moderation and energy balance. One of the things that the science will tell you is that if you're not active, it doesn't matter very much what you weigh. So your chances of cancer and heart disease and all those things are actually the same if you don't exercise. So I always say this at every time I give a talk because I want to encourage people to get out and be active. I didn't know that before I started this job. So it's been a personal benefit to me of having this job to have learned that because I've started a walking program, and so I just always try to bring it up. But we're involved in a lot of things with our partners. Things like Together Counts, which is an industry coalition of about now, I think, 300 companies who have come together to talk to people about having family meals and getting out and being active together, because that's how kids learn what they're supposed to be doing. And all of these are digital, so if you want to try this site out, it's togethercounts.org. There's Energy Balance 101, which has some curriculum on it. So a lot of this active living support is not just on places to have it, but also on information that resides digitally to help people keep track and to work with other families, because it actually works better on the active lifestyle side if you will go out and do it with somebody else rather than trying to just do it yourself. We want to be transparent about nutrition ingredients, and the internet allows us to do that. So we have this piece called Nutrition Connection, where you can actually go and you can see the ingredients of any of our products with a lot of transparency. But you know, some of the things are kind of interesting because you don't actually know what they are. You see them on the little on the label, and you go, what in the world is that thing? Because it has its chemical name on there, and you don't actually know what it is. And I heard this story the other day about somebody. I was at a meeting where someone had described something, and people were saying that's really bad. It's all these chemicals and everything. It turned out it was a description for water. So you can see that when you use chemical terms, moms get freaked out because most of them didn't like chemistry in high school, and they for sure don't want to talk about it during their free time. So it's important to be able to say, vanilla, where did that come from and what does it look like? And this is the place where we try to be transparent on that. We also, though, want to share the authentic science. So all the research is available for mom on this beverageinstitute.com site. It also is available to healthcare professionals because we've discovered that they don't know a lot about a lot of our ingredients. And so we've actually do a series of webinars off this site for dietitians and nurses that allow them to understand what the latest research is in areas around the beverage space. So this is another site that would be available to you. We've also begun to do these learning modules. I noticed WebMD had supplied the water today, and we did this with them. We've had about 20,000 now healthcare professionals go through a learning module on sweeteners. Sweeteners are not something that there's a lot of easily accessible, accurate information about, and doctors are really wondering. And you know, they don't get a lot of nutrition training at medical school or anything. So they're very interested in going through this module, and it makes a big difference in their understanding about the sweeteners. So aspartame, how many of you have heard that this is bad for you? Anybody out there? Oh yeah, okay, so a lot of hands. You know what the facts are on this? If you actually go and look at the reputable sources, 200 studies on aspartame, and 0 have said that anything is wrong with it. And so this is one of the things that we're trying to do with our partnerships. And most of this information goes around digitally. And it's very easy to get bad information off of digital sites unless you know really what you're looking at. So we're partnered with all of these guys. This little quote happens to come from familydoctor.org, but you would see similar things on all of these sites. The problem is these guys don't know how to push this out. They don't have budget to market any of the information that they have. So not just about aspartame, but we have partnerships with all these guys to take their health and well-being information and make sure that it's out in the digital space and that it's accurate so that people can actually know what the facts are around some of these healthy lifestyle issues. Arctic home. This was a big thing. Anybody see this around Christmas? Polar bears and cans? Anybody familiar with that? We're really, really excited about this partnership that was 10 years in the making. We've been working with the World Wildlife Fund for over 10 years, building this partnership. We know that for whatever reason you believe it, and some people believe in global warming, some don't, it's not important. What is important is that the habitat for the polar bear is disappearing. Polar bears have been part of us for a long time. They first appeared in our advertising in France in 1922. So if you thought those polar bears were new, they're not. They've been around and part of us. So World Wildlife Fund came to us and said, can you help us create this Arctic refuge for polar bears? That's our vision, that we could move these polar bears to the ice where the ice is going to last the longest and hope for a reversal of fortune. And so we actually did that. We took an unprecedented move of turning these Coke cans white to raise awareness of it, and then really ran a very powerful digital campaign to empower people. So the two things that I think are really interesting about the digital space from our perspective is its ability to provide information to empower people to make a difference, and then to allow them to advocate by sharing with their friends and moving it forward. We did all the typical stuff. We had cans, we had ads. We were lucky enough to partner with McGillivray Freeman Films, who makes almost all of the IMAX films, and they'll have an IMAX film on the Arctic coming out in December called Into the Arctic. It's absolutely fantastic. I've been privileged to see some of that, and even better is to talk to the guys who filmed it. Totally fascinating. But we did all that, and then we had a campaign that we turned the caps white, and so you could take the codes off the caps, and you could text those in or enter those, and we would match and make a donation by doing that, and then we would match that donation with the goal of reaching a couple $1 million over this year for a 5-year program of getting to $10 million that it'll take to make this Arctic refuge. It was a really cool website that was very interactive, where you could go and you could pick a bear to track, and the bears have trackers on them now. The World Wildlife Fund has supported doing that, and you could see their random journey back and forth across the ice as they search for food, which has become very scarce. And so that was a cool part of this. You could buy a little plot of land, very interactive and informative website that's still up, by the way, if you wanted to see it. And then we had these extensive digital components where we had some of our partners tweeting for us, Ryan Seacrest and Tony Stewart in the NASCAR side, so a lot of that kind of stuff. We had a really cool takeover of the NewYorkTimes.com front page, where the thumbprints just started showing up, and when they were all done, they made this polar bear, and it attracted a lot of attention to the issue of the polar bear. We had our partner 7-Eleven. In fact, we had 85 customers join us in doing this program, unprecedented number of customers joining us to do this. Facebook we used extensively. Our Facebook community is 41 million people. We're the second largest Facebook community that they have, and very proud of that. And we used Facebook to call attention to the polar bears and to send people to be able to do the donations. We had a mobile app that also allowed you to follow your bear mobily, which was very, very nice, and that's how I did most of my voting and everything and donations. And then we used mycoke Rewards. mycoke Rewards is a platform we have that's almost all moms. It's where they can redeem points off the cap, and they can give them to schools to get school supplies, or they can do things like donate to Arctic Home and donate them to Arctic Home. And so we use that platform for this initiative. And then lastly, we did another Learn and Earn for Recycle Bank, and I wanted to show this on for Sam's part. And these are really cool doing these because people can just quickly go through, answer a few questions. It's kind of in a question and answer format, And if you get it wrong, that's okay. They kind of sort of give you the right answer. So it's a great way for mom to learn. And what happened to us when we went through this is that the brand improved. People understood our commitment to sustainability, which we were trying to do. And so we had a very good business, if you will, outcome from this as well. So it was a win for the polar bear and a win for our business, which is really where we like to have all of our partnerships. And in the end, we raised the $2 million for the Arctic Refuge in year 1, which is really an amazing start to get to what these guys need to be able to save this species, which really is in threat of extinction. So very proud of that particular program. If you want to know more about some of the stuff we're doing and get involved with us, especially in the digital space, we have a website, livepositively.com, where you can learn a lot of stuff. We're about to announce some torch bearers for the Olympic torch relay who are involved in the community in big ways. So that'll be some of the features coming up, and you can learn more there. And with that, I will take questions. Thank you very much.
You state your name and where you're from.
Hi, George Stewart from Resonate Insights. Hi.
There you are.
Yesterday, we talked a little bit about, or Tricia talked from the Gap, talked about shared values. Everything I see here involves values, living positively, all the components of it. What struck me personally was, while I know that Coke does quite a bit, I had no idea of the extent of it. You're actually not reaching me. Maybe it's because I'm an ignorant dad, but I have a 5 and a 7-year-old, and I now want them to be a part of this. I want them to see this. I want them to track the polar bears, all of these components. What are you doing to reach the individuals like me who are dramatically unaware of what you're doing?
Yeah, so here's what I would say, and I really appreciate that. I'm here, which is one of the things that we're doing, but understand we didn't begin this journey of talking about any of this until 2008. And we didn't do that because Mr. Woodruff, who was chairman of our company for 65 years, just believed that it was inappropriate. So we're first of all, understand we're relative newcomers to talking about this kind of thing. And to be honest, at the beginning, we had to find our voice on it because we didn't want to sound like we were bragging or anything, because we don't feel that way about it. This is part of our DNA. This is what we do. It's what we think we should do. We do it because it's the right thing to do. So it becomes a little bit hard to talk about it. We had a few TV commercials, but I think digital's the space to go. We'll be working in that space more extensively. So I think the answer to your question is that we're just learning how to do this. And so we don't have it as out there as we would like because it's so new. If you think about it, we're almost 126 years old, and we've been talking about this only for 3 years. So it sounds a little crazy, but that's the case. And we really made the policy decision because the NGOs were asking us to talk more about it because they thought we could make a bigger difference. Our customers wanted to know, and frankly, consumers wanted to know where we stood on all this stuff. So I appreciate that. I hope you'll go to livepositively.com and take a look at the stuff that you can get involved with. Because we really do want people involved with us. That's how we'll change the world together.
Celeste, I have a question. Yesterday we saw some of Baby Center's Media Mom research, and part of that research they had film of moms talking, and there was this one section where they were talking about how the transformation into motherhood really led them to look for more sustainable products, greener products, to think more carefully about the products that they're bringing home. The last slide, you showed some proof points that moms are more likely to want to purchase your products or recommend your products, but how are you measuring the ROI and effectiveness of all this with moms at the checkout stand?
Well, there's a few things. We obviously look at what people, we do some surveying all the time, and the surveying all the time in part asks about our sustainability practices, if we have sustainable practices, and how people feel about our sustainability initiatives. And so we do watch that meter, but this is proof positive, as well as, by the way, personal sustainability, which is also not just environmental, but personal is very important to mom. And we measure that with things like when we do Heart Truth with Diet Coke with the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. We can look at the ratings and people's understanding about, for example, heart disease, and we can look at that happening. What we also know, but is not a direct correlation, and frankly not exactly the direct reason that we do a lot of this stuff, is we can watch the sales of the product and how they trend over time and people's feelings about our product. And that's what we really, that's how we really measure this. But we also, we are very serious about these. These aren't marketing gimmicks. This is, obviously, if we didn't talk about it for 120 years, they're not marketing gimmicks. So for us, it's a measurement of the success as well of the program and the results we want. So we're pleased about the Arctic Home. We're pleased that women now know more about heart disease, that it's their #1 health threat. And that's really how we measure. Yes?
Celeste, great work in the schools. It's awesome. I'm Michelle with Tipping Point Media, and we do a lot of work with the childhood overweight and obesity issues. And I was wondering if you have any recommendations or case studies of things you've done to reach inner city moms where the prevalence of childhood overweight and obesity is really the largest.
Yeah, so a few things that we're working on with that. We have a program that we're just starting to roll out with Jake Steinfeld, Body by Jake. You guys remember him? Friend of, he used to lift with Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think. Anyway, Jake's a great guy, and he had this idea that we could go and put gyms into some of those schools. So some of the individual schools in those places have started with programs to help kids learn about nutrition and also to be able to have a place that's safe, that they can go and actually get some physical activity. So that's kind of a newer program. Another program we've had since about 2006 that we think is really helpful is Triple Play with the Boys and Girls Club. About half the chapters do this. We've put about 1.5 million, I think, kids through this program now. And the Triple Play is learning about good nutrition, learning about the value of exercise, and learning how to interact socially. Like if you disagree with this person, how can you have that constructive disagreement? And we put that into the Boys and Girls Club. And what's interesting about that program is we've actually done some science studies. We know that it's especially effective for teen girls. They stay active longer, better body image, better BMIs. The other thing that happens, though, with that program is that they take it home. Because by doing the kids, a lot of the kids in that situation don't have parents who actually know about the diet, know about the activity. And so one of the things that we found with that program is if you train the kids, they'll take it home and actually improve what's happening in the home, which is sort of opposite the way that you would think of not going directly to mom, but mom pays attention in those cases, I think, to the kids, especially as the kids get a little older because they're helping. And so those are just two of the examples of the things that we're doing.
Any other questions? That was amazing. Thank you, Celeste.
Thank you.